The picture you see in front of you is a picture of concerned parents and citizens of the Hobgood Elementary School in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. These people came to a community meeting in response to 10 students being arrested at the school for not intervening in a fight that took place off of school premises. There was a report that was issued this past Thursday on the arrest of the 10 children from the Hobgood Elementary School, and it described the incident of the arrest as a chaotic, fast-moving, bureaucratic nightmare marked by disputes among officers and some officers threatening to resign over this. The problem here was there was no clear command oversight, and a lot of the officers that were involved in the arrest strongly objected to making the arrests, and the school principal definitely objected to the kids being arrested, and even asked that the students, if they were going to be taken into custody, that being done after dismissal, so that the children probably would have been held back so that all of the other students wouldn't have been able to view them being arrested. This entire incident had officers bickering with each other, arguing over the phone. They were looking for key supervisors to get better direction on what was going to go on here, and they weren't able to reach anybody with the authority to actually make a definitive determination on what should have happened. Immediately after the arrest, one officer threatened to resign. On the day of the arrest, one officer basically called in sick so he wouldn't have to participate. Well, now the bricks are starting to fall. On Wednesday, Police Major Clyde Atkinson, Commander of Administrative Services, was placed on administrative leave with pay. I don't know about the with pay part. But he has been labeled the one responsible for the entire incident. And the majority of the officers that were involved in this incident were assigned to him. Atkinson has been with the Murfreesboro Police Department for 37 years, and he knew about the arrest before they were going to take place. And he didn't pass that information up to his superiors. He's currently being investigated by Internal Affairs, and he'll be on administrative leave until a decision is made. Obviously, he's not speaking to the press. The person who actually pushed this, her name is Krystal Templeton. And as I indicated, she was the driving force behind the arrest. She's been reassigned, though she is currently being paid, but her work status is unchanged. Her supervisor, who could have stopped all this, his name is Greg Walker. He took a vacation day on the day of the arrest and failed to inform his bosses that he was taking a vacation day and that the arrests were going forward. He's claiming now that he was unaware of Templeton's intention to arrest the children. The police chief has now stepped in and issued a statement. The police chief's name is Karl, K-A-R-L, Durr, and he prepared a statement once that after-action report was completed. His statement was that this report is not the end of this investigation. The Office of Professional Responsibility is conducting an internal affairs investigation regarding this incident. Accountability is key to maintaining public trust and confidence, and just as we are accountable to the community, our supervisors and officers are accountable to the policies of the agencies. The Metro Nashville Police will assist in the internal investigation and also provide a peer review once the investigation is completed. He doesn't know when the investigation will be completed, however. Now, the history on this thing is the ages of the juveniles taken into custody range from 9 to 12, though the initial report said from 6 to 12. They claim one juvenile was handcuffed and transported to the juvenile detention facility, and one was initially handcuffed but taken out of handcuffs before being placed in a police car. 2 additional juveniles were transported from the school and were not placed in handcuffs at any point. One of the juveniles, which the father of that girl went damn near crazy over, was mistakenly transported to the juvenile detention facility but was released immediately when it was discovered that no arrest warrant existed for her. Now, they should have known that right off the bat, and that was just people trying to grab up everybody that they thought was involved in this thing, and there was that father should damn sure sue the police department for taking his daughter into custody without any type of probable cause. Now, the principal in this matter, her name is Tammy Garrett. She basically did pretty much everything she could, including acting against instructions from the police, because she did call one of the parents to let him know what was going on. She had expressed her concern several times about making any arrest before school was dismissed to obviously minimize the embarrassment for the children. She also asked officers not to interview any of the students until she was present at the school, and again, she asked Templeton not to arrest any kids during the dismissal. They basically ignored her request, and the kids were arrested, and as I indicated earlier, some of them were handcuffed. Police Lieutenant Steve Tatter said in hindsight that he should have slowed things down and halted the arrest because the time had run out on effectively making the arrest before the dismissal. The problems that the report that was, the after action report that was filed indicated that there were definitely issues with handcuffing and transporting the quote-unquote prisoners, these were the children, establishing protocols for juvenile operations in the school, because that the school safety officer, her ass needed to be fired. They needed to review decisions about handcuffing, including all use of force training classes. They need to develop reports specifically designed for use with juvenile victims and suspects. There definitely needs to be a chain of command notifications by administrative divisional supervision. They need to address conflicting orders across divisional lines. There needs to be an assessment for proper urgency, which in this case there was none. And there needs to be an operations on-scene supervisor to control the time of arrest and all the other functions. Now, this is really ratcheted itself up the chain, and it's causing lawmakers, church leaders, and social justice experts across the country to question the rationale behind handcuffing and booking children, you know, from the ages of 6 or, if you want to call it, 9 to 12 years old. And in my opinion, there is no rationale for that. This is definitely going to have an effect on these kids. One, interaction with police, and number two, damaging them psychologically because they were embarrassed in front of their peers. So being arrested at school is an uniquely stigmatizing situation, because obviously it does happen in front of your peers. It's humiliating, and it can stick with a kid for, you know, his entire life. Once a kid gets a label of being a bad kid, other kids are going to hold on to that label, and the kid himself is probably going to hold on to that label, and it then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The police chief, quote unquote, is saddened and sorry about the children's arrest, but where was he when supervision was needed? Fortunately, that the school officer is out, and the person where the buck stops. He's on administrative leave while he's investigated, but in the meantime, some of those kids are now processed in the system. And once a kid is processed in the system, that's it. You can try to pull back the local city records. You can, and you can have some success with that. You can try to pull those records back from the state of Tennessee, and you can successfully do that. But once the FBI gets their hands on those records, you can forget about ever getting those records back. So there needs to be a bunch of lawsuits filed against the police department from Murfreesboro. They probably don't have a hell of a lot of money in order to pay those lawsuits, but accountability must be held in this particular case. And those kids definitely are going to need to get some type of counseling in order to get over what happened to them. And I'm 100% for that. But this is just another example of police overstepping boundaries and not even basically using common sense. But the woman that basically pushed this, her ass damn sure needs to be fired. And if I was one of the parents of one of those kids, I would sue her both through the police department and personally, because that woman, in my opinion, has an agenda, and that's not an agenda that I think that we should subscribe to. The picture you see in front of you, obviously, is a picture of Officer Krystal Templeton, and she is the person that was, for the most part, responsible for the arrest of those students. Take a really good look at this woman. Now, again, I don't know what her agenda was, but she was the one that pushed for those kids to be arrested. Now, she's in a program that is designed to educate kids against the use of drugs. And again, she's part of the drug abuse resistance education unit. So how she felt like she was supposed to be a judge, jury, and executioner on those 10 kids, in my opinion, again, she needs to be fired. That's just it in a nutshell. She needs to be fired for what she did, for how she pushed this. And obviously, I believe that there are obviously good officers that were involved in this, and they were pushing back pretty much with everything that they could. But at the end of the day, they were going to follow their orders, and there's not that much that we can do about that, or even they could do about that. But the thing I will say is at least they tried. But this woman, she was the catalyst for this, and again, she should be fired.